to Darling Harbour in Sydney. From here in this beautiful square where it's just about to rain, right to the smallest school in Samoa, at school assemblies, workplace morning teas, picnics, concerts, parks, community centres, churches. Stand-up participants will be reading the pledge as they stand up together to symbolise their solidarity with millions of people around the world who are doing exactly the same thing. In a moment, we'll be asking you to stand up in support of the eradication of poverty. But first, a couple of people who would like to say a few words to you. Could I introduce to you first Mel from Mighty Challenge.
So why are we here? The problem is that almost 1.4 billion people live in extreme poverty. This means they live on less than US $1.25 a day, which is insufficient to meet their most basic needs. They're hungry, susceptible to disease and lack access to things Australians take for granted, such as clean water, decent sanitation and access to healthcare. The devastating impact of poverty is captured in child mortality. Each year 9.7 million children die before reaching the age of 5. These deaths are from causes that are mostly preventable or treatable. The reason they occur is that children in poverty are unable to access the care they need. Thus, a child born in a developing country is over 13 times more likely to die within the first 5 years of life than a child born in an industrialised country.
Thank you, Mel. Of the 8 development goals, the Millennium Development Goals, 2 particularly are taking, I suppose, a focal position this year. That one, child concerns, child health and maternal health, is the first one. The second one is climate change. And to speak to you about that briefly is Judy from Oxfam Australia.
Thanks, Jeanette. Just some background information. First of all, Make Poverty History. For those who don't know anything about Make Poverty History, it's actually a coalition of 60 organisations that came together in response to an agreement that occurred back in 2000. It happened in the United Nations where 191 countries came together and put an agreement that they would actually halve poverty by 2015. So out of that, Make Poverty History came together to ensure that this agreement actually was fulfilled. Now, what's been happening in the last few years has been some great actions. There has been movement to reduce poverty, but what also has occurred though is the impact of climate change. It has now become very evident that poverty will not be reduced unless we do action on climate change. And that's why last year Make Poverty History came together with a climate change campaign. Oxfam Australia, as well as a number of organisations, are involved in this because climate change is not an environmental disaster, it's a humanitarian one. And that's why when we stand here today, when we stand up against poverty, we also must stand up against climate change. And this is a pivotal time in the Australian history and the world history. In 10 weeks' time, we have Copenhagen, and we need an agreement, not just for ourselves, but the poorest of the poor. Because if a fair, just and equitable agreement does not occur during that time period, poverty will be exacerbated, and we're going to find further situations like we've seen recently in Samoa, Indonesia, Vietnam, Laos and India. But these are disasters. On the day-to-day situation though, people who are living on less than $1 a day cannot adapt to climate change issues such as countries as our own. So that's why it's great to see so many of you here today. But I also ask you that in the next 10 weeks that you take action, because the Australian government needs to hear that we need to have a fair and equitable agreement in Copenhagen. At the moment there are some people around who are collecting signatures, so please ask them to sign that. I also ask you to go to our various websites, Make Poverty History, Oxfam, World Vision, TIER. We're all behind climate change, and you'll find there are a number of actions you can take, sending letters to Senate 1, etc. So please go ahead and do that. And one last thing, on December the 12th, when the world leaders are meeting in Copenhagen, there is an International Day of Action. And Make Poverty History, along with a number of organisations here in South Australia, like the Common Council, the Wilderness Society, are coming together under Walk Against Warming. And on Saturday, December the 12th, we'll be meeting at 11 AM at Victoria Square and marching. So please, I really do urge you to bring everyone along, because if we truly are committed to fighting poverty, we must take action on climate change now. Thank you.
Bravo! Bravo! Thank you, Judy. I'd like to endorse those recommendations, and today, right now in fact, you are taking your first action. It's a simple one.